content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you.
Yo, what's cracking, everybody? I'm Gigi. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. It's the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, with no chasers. And what's up, haters? Hope you bitch-made motherfuckers having a terrible afternoon, hating ass niggas. When you come in, man, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification button. Except if you're a hater, go choke on some motherfucking I don't know, man, choke on some razor blades or something. Anyway, man, I'm being ignorant, man. I'm just being ignorant on purpose, man, because I can. Anyway, man, shout out to everybody out there, man. And especially the people who are members of the Green Gorilla channel, which I'm going to recite off the list, man. Shout out to Black Men Being Brutally Honest, Michael Ross, Lord Hamal, Kill the Game, Dr. Thunder, BGS Ibmore, Brotherly Love 215, Jason Hills, Be About Peace and Pleasure, Charles Finney, Interesting Thought, Lee Ways, Bim Rock, Blacksword 404, Until I'm Not, and Apex Prowler. Big up to y'all. Big up to Ezekiel Will, Naomi Gary, J. Cleveland Green, The Toxic Masculinist, Pulpit 28, No Sleep, Broken Blade, Mr. King, Larry R., Seth Son, and Devon Love Ridge. Big up to y'all. Big up Afro True TV, Show Me, Spain Man, Seventh Coast Dojo, Anthony Davis, I'm Just Jules, An Honest Look, Sherlin Woe, Ricky Dawson, Stefan Julius Ferguson, and True 7360. Big up to y'all. Big up Mr. Me Too, Call for President, Gold, Professor, AKs and Curtains, H-Town, Roguish the Buildmonger, Adrian Thomas, Electrician 480, Bingo Cutting Up with the Jones, and Zanco 1. Big up. Big up to D. Scott, Path Guy, Pete Rock, Aaron Peters, Vincent Lindsay, Quiz the Poet, Black Wizard, Jazz Deck, Shadow Observer, Artisan MC, and Troy Warren. Big up. Big up Mrs. KP Bailey, Alan Wiley, The Face, Life of Commerce, Dreamlit, Timothy Blewett, Jeffrey Speed, Marvin Battle Jr., Adam and Ignax Mouse. Big up. Big up to Brian Peake, Scott Haywood, Black Uru, Dr. Tree, Leroy Honeycutt, 77 Base X, Brian McMurray, Cameron S., Charles Rogers, Rick Ross, and Sandra Jean. Big up. Big up to Charles Gilmore, Greg Berry Little, Mr. Valentino, Cameron 87, Dr. Rock, Mark Swift, I Collar, Donald Watts, Coach Hotep, and Old Soul Chief. Big up. Big up Mr. Blue Collar, TD Hip Hop Media, Drumaine, Mr. Heath, Sir Anthony, and MLR. Big up. Big up Universal 178, Rasheed Barnes, Aaron Smith, DH, Red Pill Revelator, A Double, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Kalanja Kala, Hostile Adept, and WPR1. Can't forget the boy, David Carroll, Forrest Windu, and Kevin Samuels. Big up to all them, man. On my Patreon side, big up to Robert Wicks, Passport OG, JEK, Chris Flowers, Christopher Burton, Daxby, Jay Live, Rashawn Phillips, Keith Bass, Nick, Albert C., Dr. Ben Vincent, J. Cleveland Green, I'm Delighted My Father, Waffle Weave, Tyrone Hampton, Darnell Smith, Excalibur, Pursuer Prisoner, Taz, Dragon 59, Jay Bailey, Mr. Michi, Mo Mal, and the same. Well, big up to y'all, man. Appreciate y'all, man, for real. Thank you for supporting the Green Gorilla channel on an ongoing basis. If you want to do the same thing, man, here's how you do it. We'll be back. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. Today, I want to introduce you to my new membership program that consists of 5 levels where you can invest in the Green Gorilla channel on a monthly basis and receive level-specific perks. Memberships are special because they improve the quality of the content of the channel and will help me to be able to keep the channel going. Now, to participate in the Green Gorilla channel membership program, all you have to do is hit the join button, which is located right next to the subscribe button on my channel page. Now, for all of my subscribers, who decide not to participate in my membership program, nothing will change. The content will keep coming the way it always has. Thanks for watching, and be careful out here, people. Bless. All right, man, we back. You know, I'm GG. You tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. It's the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, with no chases, man. Brought a friend along, you know what I'm saying? His name is Sand Dog. What's cracking with you, dog?
Dog, what's going on, man? I'm just up here chilling, man, about, drinking some water, man, and, just, taking a break between the fast, you know what I'm saying? So, I'm just mellow, dog.
Just chilling, huh?
Yeah,
I feel that. Ain't nothing wrong with it, man. You know what I'm saying? Man. We talking about something today, man. Carter G. Woodson. I'm looking at the back door. I guess to a lot of people it ain't titillating, you know what I'm saying? They want to hear constant drama and bullshit related to the gender war and shit on that lower chakra shit. You know, which at some point, that's what it is. I mean, no disrespect. I get it. I understand it. You know what I'm saying? But like, if these issues don't become issues about justice and all it is just about, going back and forth, with various, women and shit. Like, I just don't know how much you're going to actually gain out of any of this. But anyway, man, talk to us, man. What's up with this Carter G. Woodson joint you got?
Yeah, man, facts. Because, what happens is, in the manosphere, right, we have a name, right, for people who believe that, you could just kind of roundhouse your way out of oppression. And so we call that, John Henryism, But the thing is that, these are people, right, who are looking for a way out, right? And so it's one thing, it's one thing to critique their perspective, right? And then it's another thing in a sense to kind of shut them down altogether. So one of the questions that I've always wanted to ask the space, right, and in its entirety is, what are the back doors that we're building for ourselves, right? So for Carter G. Woodson, again, based upon how you see yourself, if you're used to going through the back door, right, you're going to create a back door even if the space itself doesn't have a back door. So the question would be, especially, when you get a lot of debate between brothers who deem themselves conservative or brothers who deem themselves, somewhat on the left, right? Especially since the space in and of itself is about black male determinism, right? You're going to have a lot of push and pull between internal locus of self-control and the external locus of self-control. And so we've talked about systems and institutions and everything together on this channel, but now, honestly, for the manosphere, the question that I want to ask or the things that I'm going to present into what I see is that, real talk, what are the back doors that we're building for ourselves, right? Because, a lot of these, conservative guys, or what we call John Henry guys, right? These guys are not wrong in its entirety, right? There is a level of agency that you do have, right? So at the end of the day, what are the back doors that we're making for ourselves, and what level of agency is it that we are not using? So that's the purpose of today's discussion.
Okay. Well, what are some of the back doors we're used in? Like, I mean, I'm just ready, what are the back doors? Like, what are they?
So some of the back doors, right, is a split. So one of the back doors is, again, one, how we deal and how we classify one another, that I will see in the split, right? So in the manosphere, I will see things like, educated lames versus, Ray Ray and Pookie, right? So these are terms I don't like, but these are terms that exist in the space, right? So you would have select versus non-select, high value versus low value. And at the end of the day, we all exist within certain spheres of influence, right? And my sphere of influence is symbiotic with yours. Okay, meaning this, right? Let's take something like SYSBM, right? So, I'm an educated guy. I got my degrees. I'm flying around the world, right? I'm meeting all of these different people, right? But I don't deal with Ray Ray and Pookie. But when you're out at the nightclubs, in these places, right, you're living off the image or the swag that Ray Ray and Pookie have put out there, right? So I've been in Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan and other parts of the world where I walked into the place and people thought I was 50 Cent, right?
Yeah, I get it. I
You know what I'm
understand.
saying? And so the thing about it, and so again, so it's kind of like in a sense like the W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington argument in terms of what they could have done had they worked together. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, what could have been achieved again had they worked together. So one of the back doors that's being built in the space is when guys are, quote unquote, in a sense, separating themselves, separating themselves by, stations in life or, money or whatever it is they have. It's not the space itself that does it. It's, you might have certain members that impose it or this. So let's say if Sandog makes soap, for example, right? Or the best example ever, right? LL Cool J, right? So let's say LL Cool J falls in the Pookie class, and then you have I forgot his name, the billionaire brother that now owns Fubu and God knows what else, right? So LL Cool J is a Pookie, allegedly, right? So now LL Cool J is doing a Gap commercial, but unbeknownst to Gap, because they're not paying attention, LL Cool J is wearing a Fubu baseball cap. And while he's rapping about the Gap, he also slid Fubu in there by wearing the baseball cap and in one of the metaphors adding for us and by us, right? So now what was supposed to be a Gap commercial really ends up being a Fubu commercial. And from that point on, the sales of his new clothing line takes off, and now the guy's a multi-billionaire. Right?
Right. Yeah, right. So look, let me just say this, right? So I see one response from a guy named Leo Wiley. He's like, well, okay, I'm going. This is a lot of word salad. So I guess he didn't like what you said. But I mean, ultimately, to me, what it is that you said is this. Black people create back doors by creating harmful stereotypes about their own selves.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They create like divisions amongst themselves. They create balkanization and division amongst themselves over some superficial bullshit and stereotypes about how, derogatory their own culture is, or about how different people or segments of the population, how, immoral or bankrupt morally they are.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, like, all you got to do, like, say, for example, right now, if I was to put Chat GPT, pull it up and say, okay, well, what are some of the ways that black people create back doors for themselves? I'm guaranteeing you one of the ideas or the ways in which this could be carried out would be perpetuating harmful stereotypes about your own race.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guaranteeing you it would be. So, like, this is not bullshit as far as I'm concerned, whoever this one guy is. And look, let me just say this, man. A lot of motherfuckers in this space think that, like, I'm a Pookie. Okay, which principally I don't have a problem with. I think, a lot of the elitism from guys in this space, bro, like, look, all I can say is, man, let me show you something. Just so motherfuckers can understand. Because a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? This is the high school I went to. Like, can you see the imagery on the screen?
Yeah, there's a castle?
Yeah, look, dude, this is the motherfucking school I went to, dog. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I mean, this is school I went to, bro. I mean, no disrespect. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, in terms of, like,
no, well, you are.
I can't, like, it's difficult for me to show it because, I mean, it's like, well, let's show our campus. This school I went to, nigga.
No, were you a vassal or a lord? No.
Well, shit, I ran that motherfucker like I was a lord because, shit, I did what the fuck I wanted to do in there. You know what I'm saying? It's like, we ran the motherfucking spot, man. Yeah. It just is what it is. We ran the motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? So I'm talking about top-notch facilities, the whole nine, bro. It is what it is. Like, so, like all this Pookie shit, like, dude. Nigga, you didn't go to a school that I went to, dog. You probably went to a rural or like a local public school or some shit. I went to the highest of the highest echelon school, hobnobbing with the richest white boys in my city, man.
Yeah.
I'm just keeping it a buck. Now, that's the high school I went to. I went to a Hasididi motherfucking black college. I'll show it to you. I'll show it to you. That's the college I went to.
No, so
you know what I'm saying? Like all I'm saying is when it comes to colleges, bro. Hold on, let me see. Hold on, no, that's not the one. Hold on, let me see. New Orleans, because that's the one in Cincinnati. This the motherfucking college I went to. You know what I'm saying? So everybody knows that when it comes to Xavier University in relation to other black colleges and shit around the country, we number one for putting blacks in medical school, or number two, because Howard is number one. Number one for creating black pharmacists and scientists and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? But like it's the higher echelon of black folks go to this goddamn university. You know what I'm saying? In terms of HBCUs. You know what I'm saying? It's along the lines of a Howard. You know what I'm saying? So, like, dude, like, please miss me with the Hasididi shit. I'm on some, come on, bro. You please miss me with the Hasididi shit, man. Cause you niggas don't know what Hasididi shit is. You don't know what snobbery is for real. Especially if you like a regular ass nigga. Come on, dog. Stop the bullshit. Cut it out, man. Like that's all I'm saying. Like if anybody has a right to be smug and arrogant, it would be me. According to the terms like the standards that you apply. And I ain't even on that bullshit. So it fucks me up, man. The guys in this space, man, fuck me up with that shit. Like the arrogance of you niggas. You know what I'm saying? Like it fucks me up, man. But shout out to Electrician 480, man. Shout out to him, man. But I agree with that, man. I'm tired of all this separation and division and all of the motherfucking snobbery and shit. You niggas can't. You are not in a position to be snobs for real. Not for real, bro. Like you, nigga, you not on a. I could be the snob. I'm not saying none of you can't be, but the vast majority of you motherfuckers, you have no right to be snobbish, man. I'm keeping it real. What organizations do you belong to that like are snobbish in any regard? And that you can go and get clout wherever the fuck you go in whatever city you in.
Facts.
I'm in a fraternity, nigga. I'm not saying, a lot of people say we one of the coolest motherfucking frats, but it's some snobs in Omega like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
I'm just keeping it a buck, man. Like, yeah. I mean, like the snobbery, like, come on, man. Cut the fucking bullshit out, bro.
Yeah. Well, again, because you're affiliated with people in high positions, right? So what? A few commanders back, if you go back to 10 years ago, right? The commanding general of AFRICOM was our fraternity brother. Right. So, you know what I'm saying? So, again, there are doors, right? There are things that we might have access to based upon who we know, right? That opens, like I said, that opens doors for us, right? So again, unbeknownst to you, again, if you go through the right channels in the fraternity, you could find yourself sitting in the Pentagon somewhere, right? Or, again, somewhere overseas or whatever, just based upon how you move, through the fraternity itself, right? And so, again, when we look at the idea of how segregation amongst ourselves is something, that creates a back door, because what you have to remember is that when you go through other parts of the world, right, you're not riding the reputation of Booker T. Washington, right? You're riding the reputation of Black and the things that make Black cool. And a lot of the things that quote unquote make Black cool is associated with what you would call
street culture.
Street culture, right? And so again, I got a front row seat for it, man. I was just up at a university the other day, man, and I saw a bunch of Somali and Sudanese kids, right? Again, mimicking, like I said, mimicking African American culture. And if you ever been to Somalia or Sudan, right, there's nothing about those places that will generate, again, that would generate that type of culture. So African Americans, in a sense, or what you want to call Pookie culture, is what has given us the degrees of worldwide, not only given us worldwide recognition, right, but also what you want to call Pookie culture has made our struggle and our fight within the United States known to the world, right? Which is one of the reasons why people will gravitate towards, African Americans or quoting African Americans in their fights or their struggles for freedom, right? So there are people in Palestine, there are people, in parts of Asia and everything else, quoting Malcolm X right now. He himself, who was a Pookie, right? Quoting Malcolm X right now in their struggles for freedom or trying to get out of oppression. So
true indeed. You know what I'm saying? My only thing is, look, the snobbery, man. Like, I've never seen a group of regular ass niggas be as snobbish as the niggas in the black manosphere. I'm just keeping it real, man. Like, I just don't understand it, bro.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, you and I both know niggas who could be snobbish as fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, for real.
Correct.
I'm just like, I mean, seriously snobbish. But then you got niggas here talking about like the snobbiest of snob shit. And the only reason why, I've already heard it. The argument is, well, why do we have to be connected to or tethered to a group of people whom we consider to be lowlifes? I'm not a lowlife like that. I'm not a nigger like that. That's what the shit boils down to. You know what I'm saying? So I understand it. To a certain extent, I can commiserate with it, but it only takes you so far. And again, like my whole argument from the beginning has been, look, bro, it doesn't matter how fucking respectable you are, man. Like, I mean, when do you niggas, like, when will y'all get this through your head, bro? Motherfuckers will never understand it because they feel like, okay, well, I'm tethered to Pookie shit, and the Pookie shit makes me look bad when I'm around all these good-ass white people. Okay? But at the end of the day, think about it, man. The Asians are a model minority, right? Mm-hmm. But when the shit hit the fan, they put them motherfuckers in internment camps. Holla at your ass, get the fuck in these goddamn camps. Yeah. In Germany, the Jews, you can call them whatever you want to call them, bro. But at the end of the day, the Jews in Germany, model minority, correct? Yeah. The motherfuckers was in arts and sciences. They were businessmen, bankers, all kind of shit. They weren't hood niggas. They rounded them motherfuckers up and put them in goddamn gas chambers, bro. Yeah. So all this respectability shit, man, I get why you argue it, but at the end of the day, all that shit does not fucking matter, man.
Yeah, because I'll tell you this. Just the other day, I saw a commercial for the Miss India pageant, and they were playing trap music for the commercial. That's what I'm saying.
All I can say is, man,
but
the classism, like, niggas want to be able to differentiate themselves from people whom they consider to be beneath them. But I mean, like, my viewpoint on it is, bro, you niggas ain't got money like that for real, bro. Yeah. Or you niggas don't have status like that, or black men or black people as a whole don't have status like that. Yeah. I get that you feeling yourself a little bit because you're in the middle class, but come on, nigga. Stop the fucking cap, man. Yeah. Niggas is not living high off the hog, dog, like that, bro. Niggas is living check to check, bro.
I want you to feel the weight of the fact that I'm sitting in the Middle East and I saw a commercial for Miss India with the Migos or whatever playing for the music promoting the Miss India pageant.
Damn, bad and bougie.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So again, right, and you and I share, and like I said, you and I share the same sentiment, right? So, okay, to your point, when the sun is up, I'm not like those dudes over there, right? But when the sun is down, you are riding that Pookie swag like it's going out of style, right? So, so when you're in Shanghai and all those other places, and you're meeting the people there on your free social exchanges outside of business or whatever the case might be, or maybe even sometimes in business, right? You're riding the coattails of that culture or that swag that they have, right? And that's something that everybody gravitates to. Like, I'll never forget, like, the night I took my Shahada for Islam, 2012, and the young teenagers, because people are coming to congratulate me, right? And so I'm surrounded by a bunch of young teenagers, and they said, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Brooklyn, New York." And they stopped and was like, "Wow!" Like again, like I was a celebrity, right? Just from being from Brooklyn, right? But again, through television, through the music, what I'm saying, through all these things, people are familiar with these places, and they're familiar, they're familiar with the culture. So my thing is that amongst us, right, that is a back door. So again, when you shop, so LL Cool J himself, quote and unquote, might not be a Pookie, but that is street culture. So street culture took FUBU from something unknown to a damn global brand, and the guy now is a billionaire because of it, right? So I think that, again, devaluing each other, as human beings and as a resource, right, it's something, is a backdoor that we made. Another backdoor that we made is we devalue what we're good at. So meaning, a lot of Black people will devalue sports and entertainment, right? But what you don't understand is that what America exports the most is culture. And especially in today's world, through sports and entertainment, you have the ability to influence people, right? So again, so many walls have been broken down. So as a result of sports and entertainment, right, for Black people, when you go around the world, you necessarily don't have to explain yourself like other groups of people, right? So I walked into an Iranian restaurant, right? And the Iranian guy grew up listening to Tupac, right? Another guy grew up listening to Michael Jackson. You got people who grew up as Michael Jordan fans, regardless of where they're from. And so as a result of this, these things have broken down so many barriers for African Americans, that wherever you go in the world globally, you're, like I said, you're already known, right? So when you look at like somebody from like Muhammad Ali, right? Okay, so Muhammad Ali was a boxer, right? Famous figure, Muslim and everything else. So especially in the Muslim world, right? You have Muhammad Ali and you have Malcolm X, right? Probably at a point, two guys who were Pookies, right? Who kind of, one guy is reformed and the other guy is a Pookie, and you're now, your struggle, your plight, your people is now something, one, known around the world for the most part. And just like I said earlier, till today, these guys are icons within this faith community, and till today they're constantly quoted, and that comes from your sports and entertainment culture. And as a result of that, and this is how, through mass media in a sense, especially during the civil rights movement, this is how Black people have became the moral face of America, right? So because one of the letdowns, or let's say of the Obama presidency, was that the rest of the world was expecting something completely different from Barack Obama, because again, their experience with Black people, right, and especially through mass media up until that point, was all about kind of like, this global freedom, or a push to bring humanity together, so to speak, right? And so you can't look through your nose through sports and entertainment. So there was a time where banking was considered a filthy profession. That's all they would let the Jewish people do, right? And so we have all kinds of conspiracy theories against Jewish people in banking and everything else. And all I'm saying is, even if it was true, more power to them, right? Because at the end of the day, right, while they were in Europe, You marginalized them. They got in where they fit in, and they took advantage of it, right? And so the thing about it is that there's so much that goes into sports and entertainment. You still need a knowledge of STEM. You still need STEM knowledge, right? You have skills that you have to develop and all of these other things. So like, let's say for example, I'm looked up Bloomberg, right? Bloomberg was like, in arts and culture, right? That industry in America is $800 billion. So, right, so you're talking about just about $1 trillion. You're talking about $1 trillion industry and 4.4% of the American gross domestic product. So why would you crap on? Why would you crap on what you're naturally good at? Because quote and unquote, right? It doesn't feel good, or it doesn't make you. What am I trying to say? Right? You think that an artisan is not as important as a scientist, when ultimately if you study it deeply, all these things go hand in hand, right? So art is what would lead to writing, right? Poetry is what would lead to other forms of literature, even to include things like music writing and everything itself. So why would you stab something that God gave you naturally because you think it makes you inferior to other people, right? And somehow, and somehow, this art and culture thing that you're good at is a damn near $1 trillion industry.
True indeed. Okay. What's some more back doors?
Okay. So another back door, right, is as Jesus Christ said, peace be upon him, my people perish due to a lack of knowledge, right? And so I'm looking at, like, the young men, the Tennessee 3 or whatever they want to call it, right? And I'm looking at them, and when you're talking about the struggle for Black people's rights, what you have to understand, and shout out to your show on civil rights, Gigi, right? Where Martin Luther King talked about the overt part of racism, getting hit over the head. But then there's another part of racism that people don't see, right? So, okay, it's Sandog owns a house for 600 grand, right? That's the value of the house.
Okay.
And when I sell it, and the white family comes and buys it, right? The house is worth 600 grand. But because a Black guy owned it previously, the white family gets to buy it for 400 grand and walk into $200,000 worth of equity automatically, because Sandog got screwed out of 200 grand because they undervalued the house because a Black man owned it first. Right?
Yeah.
So now what happens is, this is the second portion of civil rights, right? Which is the unseen hand of racism, right? As what I would like to call soft power and everything else. So now, historically speaking, that Black people have always made moves through the geopolitics. So instead of fighting each other over right, left, and everything else, we all know that Africa is the battleground for the new Cold War. Right? And Africans themselves have had enough of racism. They've had enough, especially through neocolonialism. They would understand our plight in terms of housing and FHA loans and everything else, due to their interaction with the IMF or any other Bretton Woods institutions out there that they have to engage. Right? So, with that being said, for African Americans, I believe that it would behoove them to tie their politics to Africa, right? So if you want something like reparations or whatever the case might be, it might be a good idea to tie your politics to that, because remember, now America has to play nice with Africa if it's going to have any influence going into the rest of this century or even beyond that. Right? So you have to start looking at things. You have to start looking at things from a money perspective, or the way the world is moving. Right? So if
but most guys are parochial, man, and provincial. They have no concept of globalization, and if they do have a concept of globalization, they basically, they value other cultures more so than their own, or the one that they, are more closely a descendant of than, than others. I mean, they devalue they devalue their Africanness. Okay, I mean, it just is. This is just the facts, man. This is what I see. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you can be mad about it and be like, "Fuck them, they sold us into slavery" or whatever the case may be. Okay, all right, but at the end of the day, a lot of black people hate their blackness, man. It's a fact, man. I'm not gonna sit here and play games with these guys, man, out here about this shit when the shit is real.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So that's another way. What's another back door?
Another back door, another back door that we have, and again, it's one of your sore things for black men collectively. There's too much of an emphasis on what other people think, especially women, right? So again, when you're talking about self-determination, right? Deciding what's important for yourself, establishing, because again, if you don't know yourself, right, you can't set any standards, you can't set any boundaries. So this whole culture of what Nameless would say is, living for the gynocracy, right? So Nameless would say, okay, the gynocracy seeks white approval and black men seek gynocratic approval, right? And so he says the pyramid or it works that way, in the steps that he put out. And so for black men, you have to get out of your own way and stop living for the approval of entities outside yourself, right? You're good, just like what I was just mentioning about Africa, right? You're going to have to decide for yourself truly if you desire real independence or real freedom, right? You're going to have to start really thinking for yourself instead of being a political football for whatever entities and institutions that are out there.
Man, that's a difficult thing to do, though. That's a difficult thing to do, though, man. It's a quandary, bro. You know what I'm saying? Most black folks don't know anything but American culture. You know what I'm saying? So for all intents and purposes, we are Western people, and we're hybridized people as well. It's not like we're just completely, descended from Africa. Like we have European ancestry as well.
Correct.
So, it's going to be difficult for guys to just uproot, deracinate and go somewhere else and be like, okay, well, this is where I'm going. I mean, first of all, you probably would be an outsider where you went. Just being factual about this, it's not like Africa is like got plots of land for black folks from America to come to.
No,
and,
correct.
And setting them up like, we're going to give you dual citizenship like off the bat. I mean, people say they talk a good game. I've heard like about Ghana and dual citizenship and shit like that. But recently I just saw a video or something in that nature where they just kind of like reconfiscated plots of land that black Americans, in fact, have been, building properties and shit on. They was like, fuck it, it's time for us to reclaim this. So, I mean, I get it, but, it's almost like black folks are like Jews, man. Like, we have no place of our own. That's one of the things that the Nation of Islam, they were fighting for. It was like, can we get a minerally rich piece of land so we can set up and establish for ourselves so we can engage in industry and be self-reliant and self-dependent and develop our own, customs and laws and politics and develop our own kind of self-governing structures. But, hey.
Correct. But that's what I'm saying, right? So again, and that's another back door, right? Because again, not everybody's a pioneer, right? That's fine, right? So you could take Sand Dog, you could drop me off somewhere, right? I could cut down the trees so that you could have farmland, right? I'm willing to fight off the native tribes that are there, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing about, like, even if you look at the diaspora in the whole, right, it's not all or nothing, right? All of these different ideas can work simultaneously together, right? Like I said, what could have been achieved if Du Bois and Booker T had actually worked together? So it's not this kind of messy, like I said, that's a back door to think that somehow there's this messianic solution, right? So at the end of the day, that will be that would be a part of it, right? So, okay, let's say Sandor goes back to Angola or whatever the case might be or whatever, and maybe in 50 or 100 years or whatever the case might be, now African Americans have what other people have, which is a state that America has to engage, that has their interests in mind along with the state, right? The same way Chinese Americans would have or Korean Americans would have. And then at the same time, the African Americans who live in the United States or who vote in the United States and all of that stuff, again, if they're on the up and up like that, like just like the Jews, right? If you don't show up to that APAC dinner, fam, you ain't becoming president.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Regardless on what side you are. So at the end of the day, at the end of the day, right, you know, when you look at their population or their diaspora, right, they have their own homeland, but simultaneously they have people in America to assure that America delivers, to assure that America and her partners deliver on whatever they promise that nation state.
Well, shout out to two people, man. Shout out to Travis Norman and Kaylon. Shout out to them, man. Appreciate your donations, man. Yeah, proceed though, bro. Well, I mean, you know, like, well, I think overall, one of the things that you're saying is, well, first of all, to me, let me just be clear about what going to the back door actually is. So let me just quote the quote from Carter G. Woodson himself. He says, "Look, if you can control a man's thinking, you don't have to worry about his actions. When you determine what a man shall think, you do not have to concern yourself about what he will do. If you make a man feel he's inferior, you don't have to compel him to accept an inferior status. He will seek it out for himself. If you make a man think that he is justly an outcast or doesn't belong, you don't have to order him to go to the back door." Now, of course, I mean, like, I put the picture up, you know, for the thumbnail of, like, because black folks used to, you know, during Jim Crow, we had to go to the back of service, you know, for a variety of different, you know, businesses or whatever. You know, like if it was a hotel, we had to go in and they did service blacks. There was a black part of the hotel, and we had to go through the back door, the service entrance. Couldn't go to the front. So he's saying, look, what are we still doing that we're harboring internalized inferiority? Right? So that's the scope of the conversation. Now, I didn't make the topic up today. It's Sandog who made the topic up. He said he wanted to speak on this. I'm providing him the platform to speak on it. You know what I'm saying? Do I see a lot of internalized inferiority in the black community? Yes, I do. Do I see some of it in the black manosphere? To the extent to which, you know, the black manosphere is a microcosm of the greater, you know, society of, you know, or the black America as a demographic in it. Yeah, I see it here as well. Yeah, I do. You know what I'm saying? And one of the things, let me show you. I show this often, but I'm gonna show it again today. You know what I'm saying? It's worth seeing. Just quick facts. You know what I'm saying? This is how black kids think about themselves before they even become adults with fully formed capacities to reason. This is what black folks think about themselves.
Doll is the black doll? And which one is the white doll?
That one.
Which doll is the pretty doll? Which doll is the nice doll? Which doll is the bad doll?
Look, I ain't got to show no more. You see
Which doll
it.
is the nice doll?
I ain't got to show no more. You see it. So these are kids. These are kids who basically they have been impacted by culture writ large. And it has a profound impact on their psyche and their self-concept. So to argue that, okay, you know, like there is no internalized inferiority among black folks, that's just a goddamn lie. It's a lie. So the question is, how do you, you know, draw yourself out of it? Well, Carter G. Woodson was an educator. He helped create Black History week, or Negro History Week, which eventually, transmorphed into Black History Month. But the reason he did it was so that blacks could know their own culture, know their own history, and be proud about, their own selves and their own achievements, such that they can achieve more and not continuously adopt, an internalized inferiority. That was the whole point of it.
Yeah.
Right? So you can know who you are and where you can go. Not to call each other niggas and shit. I mean, I don't have a problem with the term nigga, but in and of itself, especially if it's used as a term of endearment, but, like some of the derogatory statements and shit and the divisions and the classifications that we established and set up, it's all on some coon shit. I mean, I'm just keeping it real. Like, a lot of it is. I'm not saying that, criminality is something that should be promoted. That's not it. All I'm saying is some of the derogatory things we say about each other, to me, has its basis in childhood, man. And the kind of psyches we have, predicated upon how we feel about ourselves, our self-concept related to the culture writ large. White America. It's a fact.
Well,
but once you become an adult and you learn, what the system has done and how it impacts your psyche, you have to try to resist against it.
yeah.
But oftentimes we fall right into the same stereotypes, or we articulate the same stereotypes that white people do. It's one thing to be against crime. It's another thing to create a category of persons and to start pigeonholing everybody from a geographical location there and just start calling a whole bunch of niggas pookies and shit. That's different than, being tough on crime. It's a difference, man. But go ahead, man. Go ahead. Don't let me disrupt you for too long. Go ahead.
No, correct. But that's what, it's also a backwards way of really dealing. And that's what I say. It's also a backwards way of really dealing with things, right? So, again, so when we talk about like the back doors that's being built, and that's my argument, right? So, again, and shout out to BGS, right? So, what did BGS say? Probably, man, damn near 10 years ago, right? If you want to stay black, the continent is where you have to go because, again, America ultimately is looking to absorb you, right? So you're going to be absorbed into whatever an American is going to be by 2050, 3,000 or however long the country does exist. So for when I hear certain guys in the space, right, and I'm talking about the politics and I'm talking about with Africa, and I hear their level of dissatisfaction and their refusal about negotiating with the state, like I told you, talking about money, right? So at the end of the day, if you have such a high level of dissatisfaction, then the response that I would have is, maybe, you're looking for a way out and you want to, like I say, and you want to leave. But again, right, quintessential to a lot of the things that we are allegedly looking for politically, now is a time, pretty much there's probably no better time than to actually galvanize and do it now, especially since Africa is at the center stage, for the new Cold War, right? So again, another backdoor that we create for ourselves is that we don't elevate our champions, right? We don't elevate and we don't support our champions, right? So,
well, champions of what? Like, I mean, in what regard?
Well, that's what I'm getting to, right? So, for the people who have fought for us, for the people who have fought for Black people in regards to their freedom, and also people that have educated Black people, right? So, for example, it is a complete damn shame. So when you talk about cooning, right? Candace Owens is not gonna die broke, but Betty Shabazz and Dr. Ben Yakinen did.
Okay, I feel that.
You know what I'm saying?
That. Yeah, they took hits. They put their dicks on or their necks on the chopping block, you know what I'm saying, in order to advance what they considered to be the political benefit of Black folks as a whole, right?
Correct.
But there are not a lot of people who are willing to, be that self-sacrificial in order to attain that kind of goal. Like MLK died for the cause.
Yeah.
I mean, let's
So
just be frank about it. I mean, you know, some of the Black Panthers died for the cause, although some of them died in less, you know,
and
less
that will be the
respectable ways. But
yeah, but that will be the question, right? And so that's my argument. So like for example, you take somebody like BGS, right? BGS could easily get up and go somewhere and replicate Thomas Sowell or Jordan Peterson easily, right? And right now, and probably he himself be worth millions of dollars or whatever just doing it, right? But what does he do, right? He comes back, he shares the information and the knowledge that he has, like, for the sake of his people, and he holds open panels, on the internet. And whether you're whether you're whether you're Dennis Sperlin or somebody fresh out of jail, right? If the link is open and you get up, you know what I'm saying? You could talk to BGS, and you can access them. Again, I come from the world of business, right? People like that usually are consultants, and we pay a lot of money. We pay a lot of money to bring them in to consult us on whatever it is that we're looking to do, right? When we're talking about demographics, statistics, and all of this stuff. And like I said, even for you, Green Gorilla, even for Dr. T. Johnson, right? So I'm not sitting here saying that cats are poor and all of this stuff and everything else, but we truly do not support or fight for the people that put their dicks on the chopping block for us, right? So I've seen quite a few times where some racist cop will kill a black kid, right? And when you look at GoFundMe, the dude is a millionaire, right? So he lost his job, lost his benefits, but on GoFundMe, they raised 800 grand for him. Right. Whereas,
right.
what I'm saying? Whereas, we're up here crying and beefing and everything else like that, and we're letting our prophets, our wise men and women and scholars, die and deplore or pass on in deplorable states, right? So, what condition was Rosa Parks in? You know what I'm saying? When she, the mother of the civil rights movement, what material condition was she in her senior years or when she passed on?
right. So there's one guy here, at least, he says he doesn't understand what the back door means. This ain't got shit to do with sex. A lot of you motherfuckers think it's got to do with fucking some chick in the anus or something like that. This ain't got nothing to do with that. Okay? Back door means literally, like, a lot of you guys, you got to understand the history. Like, before the Civil Rights Act was passed, there were separate facilities for black folks and white folks. You had colored water fountains and white people water fountains. You had colored bathrooms and white folks bathrooms. Okay? You had entrances specifically designed for black people to, be able to go into the accommodations or if the accommodation was even made for you on the account that you were black. Like, there were separate entrances for blacks and for whites. And so, of course, Carter G. Woodson, this an old head, man. This motherfucker, man, was born when, man? When was Carter G. Woodson born, dog?
Carter G. Woodson, hold on.
Okay, yeah, Carter G. Woodson, man. He was born when, man? Fucking 1875, bro.
Yeah.
He died before the Civil Rights Act was passed.
Yeah, died in 1950, 1875, 1950.
So basically, he's like, look, man, they're going to try to relegate us to the back door. But what are the ways that we've internalized our inferiority such that even if the back door is removed for us, we still going to, go to the back or to the rear entrance? That's what the analogy is about. See what I'm saying? It's not about, a sexual act and no crazy shit like that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah. My bad, because I was assumed that this was something that was known, in Black history. I thought this was a given. So my fault. I should have explained it all in the beginning. But again,
So I mean, one of the things that Carter G. Woodson is going to say is, I mean, he's a stickler for history. And he's like, black people study white history and they worship everything that's white. Like, there ain't shit wrong with whiteness. It's fucking beautiful. It's immaculate. It's perfect. It's virtuous. Whatever positive epithet you can give to it, you know, it's the summum bonum of what human accomplishment can be directed towards. White culture. But black culture is just some nigga shit. I mean, you saw it reflected in the kids. Who's pretty? White folks are. Who's good? White folks are. Who's ugly? Niggas. Who's bad? Niggas. I mean, it doesn't get me like this shit. You don't. It just doesn't require rocket science to understand, bro. The idea is that black folks have basically internalized their own inferiority. It just is what it is. Now, then some people say, well, that's not really actually that. Yeah, it's that, bro. Yes, it is. Now, if babies have this issue and they're not able to think yet, what happens when you have an adult who's black and they've never really actually sorted through these emotions and these feelings and cleared their consciousness of things that are implicit within it that they've had no control over in their early childhood development? What happens to those people who never, taken stock or the time to learn about their own culture in a systematic way? Now, I'm not saying you got to go out here and be Malcolm X and no shit like that, but I mean, you do have to have some sort of cursory understanding of your own, history. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, if you don't know your history, that's why they say, man, if you don't know history, man, you're doomed to repeat it. If you don't learn shit from history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So the idea is that, there's something valuable to be learned from mistakes that have been made in the past, from some good things that have been done in the past so that you can utilize them. Somebody said this shit to me, right? Or maybe it was a short that I saw. And it was talking about history and how everybody pays attention to history in every other regard except for in terms of their race or in terms of their own lives, okay? So, like, if you're getting a job, motherfuckers gonna look at your educational history, right?
No.
Or am I wrong about that? Like, is your educational history going to be a matter of importance?
Yeah.
When you go get a loan, are people gonna pay attention to your economic or your credit history?
Correct.
But, I mean, It's important in every fucking domain except for when it comes to your personal matters or as it pertains to, like what's happened to you as a demographic. Then you need to just abandon it. We're all just part of the big pot. Like, we're all, a big part of the melting pot of American culture. There's no different historical importance attached to any categories like race or anything like that. We just need to let these things dissolve and do away with them in order to, move forward. All that shit is ancient history or whatever. I'm just saying, dude, the shit ain't that ancient, man. Shout out to Be About Peace and Pleasure. He says, look, I'm just trying to learn from y'all unks. You know what I'm saying? I can respect that. I get that.
Yeah, no, there's no love. We not, man. Like I said, I'm not tripping. Like, again, man, I don't fight and argue and do all of that stuff, man. Again, when I come here, man, it was, it's like I said, it would have, to your point, it would have been better for me to open with that. Like I said, it was just, like I said, what they say, what happens when you assume, right? So again, it was an assumption on my part that people would automatically know what we were talking about by mentioning the back door.
So yeah, like just so people can see, let me see if I can find some examples of back doors and shit like that used to exist for black folks in businesses and shit like that all throughout America, man. Let's see. Share the screen here. Back door. Okay, I don't know. It's not very large, but I mean, it's the best I can do given the circumstances that I'm in right now. It's like I'm not about to. So, here's one woman, like, the historic colored interest. There's another colored interest. Colored interest only. Seat your ass in the rear. Like, you know, it should be the back of the bus. If you was black, you had to go to the back. You had colored waiting rooms. You know, it's just different, different accommodations for black folks and white folks, man. Just the way the shit was, you know what I mean? Like colored water fountains. This shit existed, man. It ain't like, it ain't like it was for colors only. That's how, like a lot of, this the shit fucks me up, right? So a lot of times I hear guys say, like the civil rights movement wasn't the shit that we should have been focused on. We should have been more focused on industry, which I understand. But, I don't know why you can't walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. But at the end of the day, like how many of you motherfuckers want to go, in a rear entrance to a building today? Like you'll be cool with that. Yeah. I mean, how many people would be cool with that shit today?
But that in and of itself is a lie that we should have been focused. Look, man, do you know what you need in order? You need, first of all, so if you're for African Americans, right? If you are being denied a black community through Jim Crow, right? So again, whether it's Seneca Village in Central Park, all the way down to Kansas, all the black communities that they destroyed. So if you're building communities, and how do you get industry, land, labor, and capital? So let's talk supply chain, right? Where are your raw materials are going to come from? What factories do you own? How do you turn them into products? How do you distribute them to wholesalers? And how do they then get to markets? How? And then you don't have any ports of entry. You don't have railways. You don't have seaports. You don't have airports, right? How? So if you're being denied access to land, labor, and capital, how are you? Because remember, a lot of us, and this is what we talk about with John Henryism, right? A lot of us throw around business, but what you're actually looking for is industry, and industry is a series of businesses that are all interconnected, right? That will build this kind of economy that you want. And even then, once you have that economy, where's your embassy, right? And where's your military to protect it?
Bro, I get that. So, I mean, yeah, the whole point is you can't do industry without having industry in and of itself is a cooperative venture.
Yeah.
It requires a great deal of cooperation and coordination amongst different persons, right? Because like unless you can do it all unilaterally, which most people can, okay? Like you just can't. Like we all know that one of the largest exports in America at one time was cotton, right? Yeah. So they used to send the cotton to Europe in order to make products that, would be probably either, shipped back to the U.S. or, not to say that there wasn't any manufacturing taking place in the U.S. by itself. But, I mean, when you talk about industry and capitalism, you're talking about people buying shit from different places. And like you said, moving the products from point A to B. Then there's like protection of the goods through, people
transportation and infrastructure, ground lines of communication, man. I could go on and on and on because this is what I do, right? So that's what I'm trying to say. So that's the thing, right? It's that it's that lack of. So when you want to make moves, it's that lack of understanding of how the world works.
But this is what I'm saying though. Niggas already butthurt about not being respected and shit by women and shit. Think about, nigga, if you was getting called a nigga when you walk down the street openly.
Yeah.
And how you would feel about that.
Facts.
Niggas talking about they ain't got no respect now. What would you feel like if the disrespect was palpable, nigga? Like to the point where it's like, hey boy, you got look like 15, 16-year-old white boys calling you boy and shit.
Yeah, you can't look him in the eye.
Right, like you gotta look down or else you gonna get lynched or hung from a fucking tree or something. And he's the same guy, well, we need industry. Like, look, bro, I get it. I understand you need industry and shit. So, Booker T. Washington was like, fuck all this respect shit. We don't need to worry about respect. We just need to get, our industry going. Well, but one could argue, like, we get it. We understand. But, in order for industry to get off the ground, you have to have people to trade with.
Yeah.
I mean, and you got to get loans from motherfuckers. You have to have confidence in the people that you're buying products from and the supply chain that you have. Right? I mean, you have to. Because there's trust associated with, dealing with people related to business, correct?
Correct.
And there's laws associated with, being candid and open and fraud and so on and so forth related to business. What if it's cool for, it's part of the social culture to fraud niggas? Or extort them? Engage in usury with them? What if that's part of the social contract for you to get, subjected to usury and fraud? I'm not saying it doesn't happen today or it doesn't even happen amongst white folks amongst themselves, but I'm just saying, bro, a lot of the disrespect that black folks had to deal with, man, and shouldered, it's a lot of us who are disrespectful as a motherfucker towards them people, man. I mean, we'll start talking about how they ain't did shit, how cowardly they were, and how them niggas wasn't about shit, and come on, bro, like you can't be serious, man. You mad about what your wife did or what your chick did or some shit. Just imagine you walking down the street and motherfucker, get out of the way, nigger. You got a group of adolescents and you a grown ass man, 40, 50 years old. And you got a group of fucking 15, 16-year-old white boys telling you, get out of here, boy. And you got guys like, well, fucking civil rights was just some bullshit. Huh? Niggas take it for granted they can go to the mall at Walmart or some shit. They take it for granted they can go to the McDonald's and just go in that motherfucker. Just take it for granted. Motherfuckers get spit on for doing that shit. So they had to endure a lot in order for us to get to this point. And then, what we have is criticism of what they didn't do. And then, the question has to be asked, well, what did you motherfuckers do? And myself included, I'm part of that group, that demographic who can ask the question, what did we do that could be, presented as comparable to what they did? Now, I'm not saying everybody black was a participant in the civil rights movement. That's not the case. It's not the truth. But I think, the history, I mean, like the leaders of the civil rights movement, they already wrote down what the next part of the program was supposed to be. They already wrote about it. Like, I mean, if you want to know what Black Power is about, man, go read Kwame Ture. Or Stokely Carmichael. Go read the shit. There's a whole bunch of books, the shit that's been written, but ain't nobody really actually abiding by any of it. It's a lot of talking and lip smacking about what we should be doing next. Them kids, these were young people too. Like MLK was how old when he died? He wasn't even 40.
Facts.
Well, he was under 35, wasn't he?
No, I don't think he was. I don't even think he was 40. I don't know. I don't know his exact age when he died.
How old was MLK when he died? 39. He was 39. So, things have changed. I guarantee you, so this is like he said, Will Vlog says, that's why I get annoyed when Tariq and Jason Black say nothing's changed since then. Bro, them niggas, both Tariq, the nigga who used to be a pimp, no disrespect, you know what I'm saying? But nigga, he used to be on some pimp shit. I don't know what Jason Black used to be on for real. All I know is when I assumed that he used to make videos about Ivan Van Sertima and like whether Negroes were black folks were Egyptians and shit like that. That's because that's the voice I recall when listening to them videos. Okay, so at the end of the day, Just imagine going to Walmart, but you got to go in the back of that motherfucker. Niggas would not. We wouldn't know how to handle it, bro. I mean, we would if today if we were told we have to go back to the old way, there'll be a lot of resistance to that. I mean, Negroes would be pissed off, man. So, you know, like my man Ambassador 750 say, half of those lynchings were black business owners. Because the people who were productive were the people who were looked upon as the threat, correct?
Yes.
Those are the ones they went after, the cats who was actually industrious, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, at the end of the day, man, look, I get it. But industry, it requires coordination and cooperation, and it requires for peace and justice to obtain in the society in which, you know, you're doing business. If there's no peace in the society in which you're doing business and there's no protection of your property, because white folks don't respect your property because they don't respect your rights. Yeah. So how the fuck you gonna conduct business?
But and that's the exact point, right? Because again, the slave code said you can't conduct business, and then once you get into Reconstruction, right, everything that they've been engaged in was all about trying to roll back the Reconstruction amendments. So at the end, as I said, you would need a certain level of peace and cooperation in order to build this stuff. And again, right, like what Sandog has always argued since I came to the space, right? A lot of what you want requires your own state. And if that's going to happen, you would have to leave the continental United States in order to do it, right? So, you know, again, this is, and like I said, Gigi, I'm not gonna, keep you forever because, you know, you got tuna and I got to, get ready for the fast. But the thing is that it was to identify, as what Carter G. Woodson was saying, the back door that we built for ourselves. Do not, first of all, again, you are riding the coattails. I don't care what you say, especially now we have this whole thing called SYSBM and everything else, right? You are riding the coattails of Pookie, right? Because remember, right, because Nigerians are very smart people. Kenyans are very smart people. But guess what? They do not have the same global recognition that African Americans have, right? In regards to the culture, the swag, all that stuff and everything else, right? So when I've traveled around the world and people found out that they would hear my accent, and then when they found out I was from Brooklyn or whatever the case might be, I was the hottest thing amongst them since God put damn raisins in bread, right? So, yes, we're very intelligent people, right? A group of people, but again, don't undermine the fact that what you would call Pookie or Pookieism is the swag that you're riding on at home and abroad, right? Like I just told you guys, I'm living in the Middle East and I watched a commercial for a beauty pageant in India and they're playing damn Bad and Bougie.
Right? Just say this, man. Like I've been reading from this text, man, called Dark Ghettos, Injustice, Dissent, and Reform. And Negroes really don't have much to say about the shit related to it. They just want to be able to say some shit about how Pookie ain't shit and how like black women love him and shit and don't want to fuck real niggas. Like at the end of the day, man, that's the extent to which your sophistication goes about the condition of black folks and how they carved us into different classes and shit like that. And what the rigors of the lives of people who live in these ghettos, what they are, what they consist in, what they adhere in. Like if you don't want to have an honest conversation and a candid and a protracted conversation based upon, like an academic investigation into the matter, then like what the fuck y'all talking about, bro?
Yeah. So, so again, and then, like I said, on top of it, do not crap on what you're good at, right? If you're good at something, you exploit it. Again, Sandog, if you got into a fight with Sandog when I was younger, I was more of a grappler than the striker, right? So a lot of the kids that I grew up with, right, were like skinny rail lizards, right? So whenever we fight, they be like, oh man, why don't you just box? You know what I'm saying? Why don't you just box? Here you come with that wrestling stuff. I'm like, fam, right? We about to get into a fight. This is survival. You do what you're good at, I'm gonna do what I'm good at, right? So and that was it.
So how do you respond to this? So you got one guy who says, laughing my ass off, he feels like he's a god because he rarely travels. Well, first of all, dude lives in the United Arab Emirates right now. So, I mean, that's what he does. He travels. He says that's just basic hospitality of other countries. No one stays in black culture. Black culture is just a childlike fad that is outgrown. And then the guy his name is Kemet TV, which, I would assume that he has some understanding about, Ivan Van Sertima, Chiak, Anthony Diop, Theophilo, Benga Ben Yakinen, Anthony Browder, Muada Ashby and shit like that. I would assume, that he knows about Donna Richards or Marimba Ani and a whole host of other Afrocentric scholars, Malefe, Kete, Asante, and shit like that. So it's like, how do you respond to that?
Well, again, and that's what I was trying to say, right? When you're looking, so you're seeing black culture as something as a negative, right? So, and that's what I'm trying to say. So right now, out of Korea, right, there's a group called BTS that all these little girls are globally dying over, right? And so I'm at work and I'm sitting with the little Emirati girl, hijabi girls, and they show me what BTS is. And I'm looking at it saying, that's nothing but damn New Edition. That's nothing but the Jackson 5. And so, they're looking at Backstreet Boys and all that stuff. And I turn on New Edition Candy Girl or the Jackson 5. And I'm like, all of that stuff. Again, that is nothing but that's nothing but this. So black culture in and of itself, man, is not some negative childlike thing, right, that you grow out of. Now, like with any culture, there are, like I said, there are negative aspects to it. And even to, like I told you before, even till today, for most people globally around the world, what they've seen in the civil rights movement, especially out of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, has become the blueprint everywhere. I've been in parts of the world where I've seen where people aren't black, and I've seen murals of Tupac and Malcolm X. So it's not, so that's what I was trying to say in terms of building a black back door for yourself in terms of where you view it as a negative. So yes, there might be some music out there or some groups out there that are not necessarily, appealing or the image that we want to put out. But ultimately, we have a culture that is, one, it's positive, and for whatever reason, people like it, and it has, like I said, it has a huge draw to it, right? So just the other day, I was in the studio, with my homeboy, and that, there's a Japanese funk band that plays here, and they're out trying to do, with one of my homeboys, they want to do a soul and funk fusion, and it's a Japanese funk band. So by all means, right? So by all means, if what you want to call black culture, rock and roll, blues, jazz, funk, right, which creates all these other forms of music that exist, it's not something negative. This is something that we call high culture, right? And so as a result of it, I mean, you get mass consumption of it, and then sometimes high culture, once it becomes pop culture, could be drugged down into something that's low culture, right? But at the end of the day, fam.
Hey, man, you know what fucked me up, man? Like, you can't hear the audio in this, but, so now, motherfucker, like, people, Memphis juking has become popular and shit. So now agents done picked up on, like, that kind of dance, like that dancing style. Look at this shit. So these Vietnamese people, man. He doing that shit better than some niggas, you know what I'm saying? Hey, it just is what it is. So, like, people copy each other's cultures, man. This shit happens, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, It is what it is, saying dog. I ain't gonna hold you forever, bro. You know what I'm saying? You got some things you got to do. I noticed you started to wind things down, man. You know what I mean? So if you got any questions for saying dog, man, now's the time, man. He got to go. If you don't hurry up, you know what I'm saying? He gonna be, he's out. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, like the only thing I was gonna do was to show you, like okay, I was gonna go to Chat GPT and put in the quote from let me see, backdoor Carter G. Woodson. And I know the quote is gonna come up. If you control a man's thinking, let me put that shit. If you can control a man's thinking. So hold on, let me hold on. Okay, hold on, let me see, hold on. Present, share screen, thought control, consequences. So I put it in there, right?
Yeah.
So it says, okay, the quote is attributed to Carter G. Woodson, an African-American historian, author, and journalist who's considered the father of black history. It highlights the idea that controlling a person's thoughts and beliefs can have a powerful influence on their actions and behaviors. The quote suggests that if someone is made to feel inferior or like an outcast, they will naturally accept their position and may even seek out ways to reinforce it. This can be particularly damaging when it comes to issues of discrimination and inequality, as it can perpetuate harmful stereotypes and prevent people from challenging unfair treatment. Ultimately, the quote serves as a reminder of the importance of critical thinking and independent thought. By questioning our own beliefs and assumptions, we can resist attempts to control our thinking and ensure that we're making informed decisions based on our own values and perspectives. So I'm going to say, what are examples of this, of backdoor thinking for black people? So look, this shit came out fast. The term backdoor in the context of this quote refers to the idea of segregation and discrimination against black people, particularly in the U.S. It suggests that black people were often forced to enter buildings through the back door rather than the front door as a way of reinforcing their inferior status in society. In terms of backdoor thinking, this refers to the internalization of these harmful beliefs and attitudes by black people themselves. They can manifest in a variety of ways, including internalized racism. They begin to believe the negative stereotypes about themselves, leading them to feel inferior or ashamed of their heritage and culture. Self-segregation. Some black people may feel more comfortable associating only with other black people as a way of avoiding potential discrimination or discomfort in predominantly white spaces. I don't like that one. Limited aspirations. I can see that one. Colorism. Let me see. Are there any more examples? Let me see. Come on, man. What the fuck? Yes, here are some additional examples of backdoor thinking that black people may experience. Stereotype threat. This refers to the fear of conforming to negative stereotypes about black people, which can lead to anxiety, self-doubt, or a sense of being watched or judged. Like, I can't be too much of a nigga. Internalized oppression. Black people may feel a sense of hopelessness or powerlessness in the face of systemic racism, leading them to accept their marginalized status and avoid challenging the status quo. Tokenism. Black people may feel pressure to conform to certain expectations or behaviors in order to be accepted in predominantly white spaces, leading to a sense of inauthenticity or disconnection from their cultural identity. That's the famous W.E.B. Du Bois double consciousness. Lack of trust. So I mean, I'm just going over the shit, bro.
Yeah, correct, man. Exactly.
So here my man, here BGS is, man. What's cracking, BG? Black Gnostic, what's cracking with you?
Oh,
yeah, he's muted.
yeah. I just wanted to, chime in on what Kemet TV was saying. You got to realize, black culture, basically the whole industrial complex that we now enjoy is based on what the slave plantations, which is black culture. It's just been replicated and disseminated and changed a little bit. But if you look at the modern industrial model, it's based off of black culture and the slave plantations and black people's able to actually adapt to the harsh work environment. So the whole this whole modern Western model is based on black people and black culture.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah. You
Facts.
know, like you know, my whole thing is, you know, look, I just hate I hate black folks to stigmatize themselves
Yeah.
and to cut and to paste categories that white folks created and then attach them to ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, I get it. You know, look, I understand that, you know, guys don't want to be perceived as being regressive, criminal, lazy, shiftless, non-industrious, and things of this nature. And I do believe that there is, to be quite honest, you know, this you know, kind of conceptualization of black culture is antisocial or whatever the case may be. But you got to understand, like, people love throughout the world, people love the little guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, like in the movies, we love the little guy who beats the odds and shit like that. Like, what black people were able to accomplish to get as far as we've gotten is miraculous.
Yeah.
Facts.
It is miraculous. Like, I mean, I'm not to say that this is the end point. This, like, this ain't the final stop. Like, this is not the promised land. This ain't the mountaintop. Okay. But, you know, like, black people have achieved a lot, man. The only thing, you know, we got to be understanding about is that, you know, white folks, man, they changed the nature and the game of oppression. But, you know, it takes a long time for us to be able to adjust to it. But
even Marx talked about, based a lot of what he thought about in Marxism is based on slave revolts. You know?
Facts.
But you know one thing about it, though, man? Check this out, right? The smaller you are, the more able to adjust you should be. Like say, like the Vietnam War, right? So they didn't have the machinery of the U.S. They didn't have the equipment and the kind of organizational structure of the U.S., but they were mobile and they were able to adjust on the ground really quickly.
Yeah.
You know, they were able to react and respond way quicker than a humongous organization would with a top-down hierarchical structure.
Right. Yeah.
So the question is, like, what the fuck is preventing us from being quick? Like, we should be like the bantamweights of the fucking world. You know what I'm saying? Like, we should understand the game. But it's like we're lulled into superficiality.
Actually, we're pushed to be innovative, right? Because, I mean, if we just look at music alone, right? Okay. Our music changes every 10 years out of necessity to survive. Okay. We have to be in constant flux, constant change just to survive. We can't depend on like, you know, 1950s rock and roll like the white boys do. We can't. We have to constantly innovate and change. And
you know what?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, BGS. Thank you for that, because me and Nameless were discussing offline about institutions, right? So we were just talking about like the godmother of rock and roll. So we were talking about, okay, how come KRS-One doesn't have disciples or LL Cool J doesn't have disciples? And that was the conversation. I was like, why do we like new things so much? Because we move so quickly, like to your point, country, blues, jazz, hip hop, and whatever it is. Right. And so so what you're saying is that this is related to our survival?
Yeah. Well, because we're, you know, we have to adapt to the environment, and our environment is always under pressure. So I mean, you're a military guy. If you're say if you're outnumbered, right? And I'm just saying, you know, if you're outnumbered, you're under pressure, right? Just like a guerrilla, you have to find ways, innovative ways that your opponent doesn't suspect or expect to actually gain some kind of advantage, because that's all you have. You have to be innovative. The only advantage you have is surprise and innovation.
Correct.
Just like the Vietnamese would dig up our landmines, right, and repurpose them.
Yes.
Into weapons. Okay. So, you know, like the Pujo sticks, right, with the sharpened bamboo, it would be in the ground, actually go through the soldiers' boots. Okay, that's all they had. So they had to be innovative. They had to be innovative and had to constantly change their tactics because they didn't have anything. And I think black people the same way. The reason our music changes so fast is because it's going to take 10 or 15 years for white people to catch up and actually take it over. So we have to be on to something else by then. our
Yeah.
clothes, our hair, our music, the way we do politics. Okay. Like Barack Obama was the first one to actually leverage the internet or social media is a campaign strategy because he had to.
Yeah, but the thing is, but don't you think that we lose something out of not completely forming institutions around what we create? So, for example, when we
Hmm.
put down BB King's guitar
Right.
for turntables, right?
Right.
So now, again, and you know just as well as I do, BGS, right
Uh-huh.
now, there are probably loads of white kids and Asian kids looking to be the next BB King. Like me and neighbors talking about, BB King was so good, right,
Hmm.
that it's rumored he sold his soul to the devil to be that good, right? So,
Uh-huh.
so the thing is, again, so the thing is that, you know, what do you think at some point that we would kind of need to pause and just own, in a sense, what we create or
The,
build?
the thing is, when black people build institutions, right?
Yes.
What normally happens to them? They get
Mm,
infiltrated, they get taken over, they get subsumed, right?
correct.
Look at something like and this is something that Doc can weigh in on, right? Intersectional feminism, right? Started in the 1980s, right? Because black women wasn't getting their just due from feminism.
Correct. Yeah.
So they,
1980.
they needed they
Yeah.
needed the intersectional feminism to actually separate themselves from white people and even their black men, unfortunately, to actually cut a niche out for themselves, right? What happened, 30 years later? White women started assuming intersectional feminism and weaving it into people of color and all kind of other stuff, right? So
Mm,
now
correct.
black men have to be on to something else, BLM, whatever stuff they try to come up with, right? In other words, you have to be constantly innovative because guess what? We, don't- our culture is not built on solid ground. It's not. To have an
Correct.
institution to last for a long time, it's got to be built on some kind of bedrock foundation. Do we have that?
No.
I'm asking.
No,
You might be, you
yeah,
might see something
I'll
I
be
don't
the
have.
first one to, yeah,
Yeah,
you know my stance, BGS, about our own state. So I'll be
yeah,
the first one to say no.
yeah. I'm asking Doc. Is there
Okay.
something? Is there to have a solid institution, say like the Supreme Court or a national bank or the Fed? It's got to be built on something that's solid, right? It's got to be
Yeah,
backed up and
I
protected.
get
Yeah,
exactly what you mean.
yeah.
To a certain extent, I think so. But
Okay.
we do have institutions. Like for example, I mean
Hmm.
the church is an institution whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you can say whether or not you consider it to be a valuable or a progressive institution, but it sure does exist in
It
the black
exists.
community.
It exists as an institution, but look at all the changes that has to gone through since emancipation, right? Look at it now. Is it
Oh,
what
it's
it
a
was?
shadow of his former self.
A shadow of its former self.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't think. I
Yeah.
mean, we got like say for example, there are institutions, but they're not overarching institutions. That's what
Right.
I would say. Okay,
Yeah.
so like there are none. There are no overarching institutions. But my argument would be this:
Hmm.
can we create institutions that could last? We could, if black folks would get on the same code and they would develop, some sort of ethos that would keep them connected and give them fidelity to the institutions. Like, say, for example, the Jews, they have a religious tradition that even if they can't adhere to it universally, because, you got secular Jews, but then you got Orthodox Jews who, kind of cling to the tradition.
Right.
But the people who do cling to it create, avenues for the people who exist outside of it to operate in a cohesive way.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. The Jews also cut a deal with the white folks, man, like 1,200 years ago too. So.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, how is it possible for black people, to develop institutions,
Hmm.
like in different areas or different pockets, in the world, like say, for example, in Brazil,
Hmm.
they've developed religious institutions that are a little bit different than the kind of ones that we've developed here in the Americas. But you got Santeria and shit in Haiti, you got voodoo.
Uh-huh.
So there are ways to do this, but like you do have to adapt and be on the fly if you're dealing with constant barrages of violence
Yeah.
and manipulation and exploitation. You got to be you have to be adept and you have to be adaptable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I do want to confirm the fact that see this is what I know right about capitalism.
Hmm.
That like before capitalism existed, you had mercantilism.
Right.
Okay. And so like when America was basically carved up, and you had the Brits. Well, you can't call them the Brits. England at the time, France, Spain, and Portugal, and the Dutch and shit like that. They came here under, the framework of mercantilism. They didn't come under the framework of capitalism.
No.
Okay, they came here with the idea that we're going to expand our nation's wealth and power by maximizing exports, minimizing imports, and accumulating gold and silver. That's fucking mercantilism.
Right.
Okay?
Yep.
That's what mercantilism is. But capitalism is basically an economic system that's based upon private ownership of the means of production.
Right.
Okay. Now, classically, you got to understand, like in America, who was the fucking, the owner of the means of production? The fucking plantation owner.
Yep.
You understand what I'm saying? So slave labor, it allowed, private individuals who were speculating, like, I'm gonna get rich and come to America. Well, it's like, fuck it, I'm going to exploit enslaved people and make money from crops like sugar, tobacco, and cotton and shit. And it developed international trade.
Yeah.
Like without the transatlantic slave trade, you wouldn't have the global trade networks that you got now.
True.
The triangular trade between Europe, Africa, and America wouldn't exist. Okay? The Industrial Revolution, in part, was spawned by, slave labor and the transatlantic slave trade. You know what I'm saying? And that capital funded the Industrial Revolution in and of itself. It actually paid for it.
Well, I was about to say, when it comes to North America, Australia, and New Zealand, primarily the reason why they were so heavily trying to colonize these areas is because for much of Western European society, it was basically like a dumping ground for all the undesirables that they had. Basically they didn't want these people, and they're like, well, shit, we got to send them somewhere, so fuck it. You guys can go to America, and basically told them, get the fuck out and don't come back. There was actually a whole, and I think even Dick Gregory talked about it. But there was this whole, if you look at Dateline NBC, it's this video on YouTube called Investigating White Slavery, basically talking about how, like, the first 100 years or so of the establishment of a lot of these colonies, it was basically most of the slave labor was actually other Europeans. And after, obviously, you guys know, after Bacon's Rebellion, slavery became a thing based on status to something that was based on a skin color. So unfortunately, yeah.
Well, Bacon's Rebellion marks a turn in which, the institutionalization of the racial hierarchy became more pronounced than it was in any period in time. And then, so you really didn't have whiteness prior to Bacon's Rebellion. You just had, a whole bunch of people who were European immigrants who really didn't have any tethering to one another. I mean, because they were still, let's face it, man, the Germanic tribes been at war. Dude, you ever read, the Western history? It's chock full of, especially during the medieval period, it's
constantly just beating the hell out of each other. Oh yeah. Yeah,
it's internecine warfare.
Giant catapults and shit. Oh yeah. You have these large scale military campaigns, you know what I mean? Hundreds of thousands, millions of people involved are being held. You can even look at the fucking Napoleonic Wars as a proof of that concept.
Yeah, so I mean, it ain't like they just ace boon coons with each other, you know what I'm saying? They, they'll go at each other's throats real quick. The French against the British, they fought for this territory. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you got some areas of the country, the French and the Spanish were, of course, Catholic, correct? Right?
Yeah.
But then, the Portuguese, I think they were also Catholic, but the English were Protestant and shit. They fuck, we're not paying homage to, the clergy or the ecclesiastical authority at all. Fuck that. We got our own kind of thing going on. We don't need to have internecine intervention by a priestly class for us to gain access to God. We let our conscience be our guide. But I mean, at the end of the day, you can look at different places in the country and see the influence of different colonial powers and the impact that they had in the various geographical locations, like I said. Louisiana, that's all Catholic and French. St. Louis, French, Spanish. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you just got to pay attention. The shit is there. You know, but history to us is unimportant. It's some boring shit. You know what I'm saying?
Hold up. I got to step off and come right back. Hold on.
All right. Yeah, history is boring to us because we don't see ourselves in it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it is what it is.
And people and some people don't do a good job of connecting the dots from the line from where you came from to where you are. And
Right.
it takes a lot of study as you do that, you know, to actually connect the dots and bring it up to date.
Well, that's
Like
why Carter G. Woodson is important because here's a scholar like I study philosophy and yeah, there's a lot of European shit interwoven into it.
Yeah.
But I don't just pay attention to what white folks say and what they do. You know, I want to find out, okay, well, like, where's our place in all of this? And thank you, Charles Finney, man, because I ain't been getting no support for the stream. If you don't talk about clapping cheeks and just pearly things and how these bitches ain't shit, niggas do not want to support anything. But then they'll be the first motherfuckers to say, I'm tired of this.
Yeah.
No, you're not. You love that shit.
Love that.
You love this shit. Niggas will say, you know, well, we're not emotional and all that. You love that emotional hood ratchet shit. Y'all love that ratchet shit.
I was about to say, like when we have these conversations on the legacy of slavery, I think people take away the wrong message. Is that instead of the message being like a cautionary tale, as far as like, hey, you know, we need to avoid being put in that compromising of a position ever again. I think instead people use it as a crutch, and that's where the disconnect is. It's like when you learn about these things, reclassification of various tribes, forcing everybody to adopt Anglo-Saxon, French, and Irish surnames. Was I about to say mass illiteracy, of female supremacy, etc. The whole point of us learning about these things is to say, hey, these things are basically set up basically as traps for us. So the message should be, when we're learning about this history, it should be, hey, we need to avoid, you know, the fuckery, you know, and the message should be, hey, we should go out of our way to be good to one another, not so much to be quote unquote non-threatening to other people, but rather because like you have that righteousness within you. As the late Patrice O'Neill said, you know, if you're going to do it, you got to do it righteously. You know what I mean? And I think that's the point that people miss. That's the point that people don't want to accept.
One thing that, people say, you know, like when you talk about history, you know, you're just presenting yourself as a victim. You're acting as if you have no agency. And you're talking about things that transpired so long ago that they have no import on today. And, you know, my whole viewpoint on that is, like, where are you getting this from? Like, says who? Like, says a conservative white boy?
Yeah.
No, I'm saying is that when we talk about it, no, not you, man. I'm not offering a critique of you, Kev. I'm not critiquing you at all. I'm not responding to, like, I understand your position and I get it and I pretty much share it, you know, what you said. This is not a dissent to what you're saying. What I'm saying is that there are groups of persons who have an aversion to covering this sort of history because they feel as if it's an excuse for certain black people to you know, not be active or exercise agency in any capacity whatsoever. And that's just not the case, man. No, what it is with them is that it destroys the myth of European exceptionalism. And that's what a lot of their ego is invested in.
But why, as a black person, why would your investment be in European exceptionalism? Like, what fucking part of the game is that? Like, explain to me.
You get rid of the boogeyman. You know, the white supremacy is a boogeyman that you can't defeat. And it will get rid of the boogeyman. Because I run up against that all the time. Like, I'm saying the white supremacy is disappearing, and that's the biggest fight I actually get because they don't want to believe it. They get rid of the boogeyman because they're used to that barrier being there. They're used to that boogeyman being there to smack them down. But when you actually reduce them down to human size, they can't handle that. White supremacy is almost a religion with them.
But let me do some housekeeping real quick. Shout out Shout out, because, you know, I'm notorious for being, you know, engrossed in the conversation and not doing housekeeping. Shout out to Jason Hills. Appreciate your contribution, sir. He says, please continue to not talk about JPT, which is, we all know who that is, okay? He says, and clapping cheeks. He's clipping cheeks, but I know he means clapping cheeks, etc. And thank you for showing up to work today. You know, hey, man, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Shout out to Jazz Tech. He says, Scholar Tax. Appreciate that, brother, man. And also shout out to Charles Finney, who, you know, I'm acknowledging at the current moment. And look, I know, look, Sandog, if you got to go, man, it's fine, man. You know, I'll holler at you later, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Man,
don't feel like you...
I'm up here making love to this chicken. I'm with you, fam.
Okay, well, hey, you know what I'm saying? Hey, man, you know, you filing...
No matter where you are.
I don't hear you smacking, though, so you got the mic turned off while you filing that shit.
Y'all need to come visit. Y'all need to come visit me so I can take y'all. It's this place called Bondbird, man. And man, this I was loyal to Popeyes, but I'm a new creature. Yeah, man, y'all need to come out here. I'll take you to Albert, and I'll take you to Bondbird, man. This chicken is slamming. but just it's like what BG has said, right? In my debate with a lot of people when we talk about independence, and it's BGS and I deal in geopolitics, and I am telling African Americans, especially in this backdoor conversation, that a lot of your politics needs to be shaped with connecting with the continent in some shape, form, or fashion.
True.
You know what I'm saying? Because the continent is the new battleground for the current Cold War. And what America has that other people don't is the most culturally influential Black population on earth. So if you want reparations and all of that stuff, if you're really serious about it, now is the time to make that push, because you would have to twist America's arm to give it to you so that they can play nice with Africa. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't get up here and I don't push. I push utilitarian talking points. And for a lot of us, man, if you truly want to be free, it's like what BGS said, you have to go to the continent. So look at Sandog, right? My wife is half Yoruba, half Fulani, and we have Mende relatives, right? I live in the Middle East. I'm Muslim. I've been absorbed by other cultures, right? In terms of quote and unquote keeping a Black identity. America, and BGS can correct me if I'm wrong, right? So if you study Jim Crow, America has never been interested in having a Black community. That's not what they want. So for the Black people that are there, again, there's no beef or nothing. All these things could work in tandem, just like I told you, right? But for the Black people that are there, the idea is to absorb you into the collective, right?
Well, you know, I'm gonna tell you what America does, man. America. Well, let's speak frankly about this shit, right? Colonial power expand. It's like empire power. Think of it in terms of, like, if you have to, science fiction, Star Wars or some shit like that. The empire goes out, it colonizes, it exploits in order to draw in resources for itself and to expand its power and its influence. That's what the fuck empire does. Now, if it has to create colonies to do it, it'll do it. If it has to enslave certain populations of persons, it'll do it. If it has to commit genocide of certain populations of persons in order to achieve those aims and goals, right? Because that's just an objective of a larger aim, or, you know, like a principle under which they operate. If they go around, they chew people up and spit them out, man. This is how they do business, man. It's like, that's how they get down. And they do it for the sake of their own demographic or who they perceive to be part of their kinship group or their clan or whatever the case may be. All right? And so this is what the fuck we dealing with. Now, I would say an unfocused study of history would be studying just history in general without being knowledgeable about how to put yourself into the picture. And that's how, you know, of course history is boring as fuck if you don't see yourself, you know, represented in any of it. Who the fuck wants to, like, why would I want to just study what white folks did? and,
Yeah.
and have no understanding of how I fit into any of it. So in that way, you know, you can be minimized and kind of glossed over and overlooked. You know what I'm saying? To where you don't have any import at all. Like, and the one thing I like to do, I like to study white folks. Because you know what they think and how they, you know, like if you know the origin and the seed of a thing, then you know how to actually resist against it. It's like spying on, you know, like the New England Patriots spying on the Rams or some shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, oh, they know the plays before you even fucking run the plays because they've been spying on you. They figured the fuck your modus operandi out. But we don't like to do that shit. You know, like what we'd like to do is just, I love self-criticism too. I do, you know, I like to, you know, say, okay, we're fucked up in this way, that way, and that way. But sometimes we got to find out how to bond and to fucking do some damage and then complain about how we fucked up. But right now, we ain't playing team ball. We just all over the goddamn court doing any goddamn thing. No coordination, no concentration of effort and energy on anything. It's just, I'm going to tell you why, though. Because Americans have, you know, they love this whole philosophy or this ideology of individual freedom. Like, don't fucking tell me what to do. Don't make me have to be part of a whole. I'm perfectly fine on my own, doing what the fuck I want to do. And the question is, like, with that kind of mindset, how can you get anything done as a group? If you're suffering because you're subjected to oppression or injustice as a group, then how the fuck are you going to resist against it individually?
Well, I think what we fall into the trap in, Dr. Green Gorilla, is the trap of the individual versus the collective, that false dichotomy. It's not a matter of individual versus the collective. It's a matter of, okay, which one is appropriate for the situation? Because here's exactly what happens. Okay, it's almost like why we get caught into this vicious cycle. Okay, first of all, when it talks about this heavy emphasis on individual freedoms, first of all, they're not the first ones to come up with that. These were common principles in many Amerindian tribes prior to the European arrival, for one. Number two is, when us, the so-called black folks, when we talk about collectivism, what we do is we promote groupthink. Everybody has to think the same, act the same, piss the same, shit the same, etc. And then what happens is that we fall apart because everybody's not doing it the way that it's quote unquote supposed to be done. Whereas if you understand that you can think as an individual within a group, aka we all don't have to agree, but we can learn to work together, I think that's much more effective. But we keep getting caught up in the trap of individual versus collective. No, it's about thinking as an individual within a collective. Okay, like sometimes you're gonna have to do stuff and take the initiative on your own without having to look for the group approval. And sometimes you need to learn how to work together with other people. And so because we keep believing in the lie that groupthink is gonna magically save us from this shit, that's how we're able to be so easily infiltrated and to be so easily divided. Whereas if we just kind of have the mindset of, all right, well, hey, we can work together here and there. Let's just stay the hell out of each other's way here. Oh, I see you're going over there, bro. All right, cool. Let me help you out. Let me help you get to your goals over there. Like, if we have that mindset, I think we would be a lot more effective at being able to work together. But unfortunately, again, we keep believing in this lie that groupthink is going to save us. And if you've ever studied the 33 strategies of war or the 48 laws of power, that's one of the worst things you could do to fuck yourself up, is to get caught up in the snares of groupthink. So again, when it comes to individual versus collective, it's not a matter of being a versus thing. It's a both and thing. It's a matter of, okay, which one is more appropriate for the situation at hand? Is it better to think as an individual, or is it better to act as a group? Because if you can master that, that's how you'll be able to effectively work together as a team. Again, think of it like if you're on a football team. Okay, yeah, we all might play the same uniform, but we all play different positions. You know, there might be sometimes you need to make a play by doing what the coach says specifically. Sometimes you can make a play by, you know, calling it audible and doing your own thing. Like,
well, so you know, look, yeah. This all points back or alludes to, you know, what BGS was saying, and he dipped out. But the whole point is this, you know, like black folks, we have a difficult time, you know, getting the feet underneath our legs and, you know, having a set of institutions where we can actually do anything and be individuals and still understand ourselves as a collective in order to get work done. I mean, it ain't no strange secret. Like, what does e pluribus unum mean? Like, what does it mean?
Correct. We've accomplished, yeah.
No, well, e pluribus unum means out of many, one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So the whole idea is that, look, no set of doctrines other than the ones that we've agreed to about, like, the structure of our politics is of any prime importance. I mean, you know, there's a set of principles that we subscribe to that we can agree on, but like the particulars, you know, fuck all the particulars. Like, at the end of the day, we got to make collective decisions together. But of course, it requires you to think at least as a nation state. Like, I mean, like, I might have to do a show about, like, black nationalism and, like, what it actually entails, and, like, you know, like, strict black nationalism, like, in terms of, you know, like, solidarity all across the board versus, you know, the idea that, you know, we at least ought to bond around the principles of justice such that we don't get exploited, and at least, you know, at a minimum, understand that we got to, you know, come together and do some things on account of the benefit of the group as opposed to just our own self-interest. But, you know, you got so many black folks today, man, who, you know, they are fucking thoroughly immersed in the cult of individualism all the way deep down, to the point where you can't tell me shit. Like the Kanye, you can't tell me nothing. Nigga, you can't tell them nothing at all. Like, if you can't tell anybody anything at all predicated upon negative liberty, then how the fuck can you get any collective kind of, you know, project off of the ground? How? I don't understand. How can you? But you know what all of this is a function of, to be quite honest? It's a function of capitalism itself. Capitalism teaches all of these kind of ideologies fit together, okay? Capitalism, negative liberty, the Republican conceptualization of politics in America. They all fit hand in hand. But you're seeing, not to say that there's nothing redeeming about it at all, but I mean, you're seeing the excesses of it. Okay? What's the excess of negative liberty? You being able to declare that you're anything that you say you are. That's an excess. Now, one can argue, okay, as a response to, you know, authority or like the abuse of authority and autocracy, the negative liberty is a good thing. But when you take it to, you know, like, this is what I say, right? Like, you have to, when you accept a political ideology, you also have to be accepting of its aberrations and the cons associated with that way of thinking. And me, you know, like, you have to understand the negativity implicit within your political ideals. Nowadays, it's like, fuck it, I can do whatever I want and nobody can say shit about it. So today I could be a bitch. I mean, I could be a woman, nigga. All I gotta do is declare it. Tell me that doesn't have something to do with capitalism and negative liberty. I can buy who it is I want to be. If I want to go get an ass and some tits, I can do it. As long as I got the money to do it. Am I wrong? If I can pay for it, I can be it. I mean, I don't think that that's actually the case, but I mean, that's the mindset. So you have to, like, all I'm saying is the excesses of capitalism conjoined with political ideologies that's undergirded on the social contract tradition. This is the culmination of it. This is an instance of it going awry. This is the cancer of negative liberty and capitalism. Ridiculous excesses related to identity politics. But this is where we are. And the question is, how can you save the redeeming value of the core concepts without, you know, but at the same time, simultaneously, you know, like excising the toxic or the disease-filled excrescences associated with it? I don't know how.
Well, no, no, you have to think of it like this. Listen, if you look at a lot of these ideas, okay, again, like I said before, again, a lot of them are adopted from a lot of if you were to read a book called Encyclopedia of American Indian Contributions to the World, many of these political ideals on both the left and the right wing, literally all they're doing is just taking these ideas that basically niggas have already come up with and just taking it to an unhealthy extreme. Okay, again, going back to what we talk about, like how our music is exploited. Think about like how jazz, jazz music or hip hop music. You know what I mean? Like all they've done is just take a good idea that we come up with, take it to an unhealthy extreme, and then that's how it becomes like a gross bastardization. Like think about the brother Garrett Morgan Sr., rest in peace. He was the brother that invented the traffic light, Yet he invented it as a means of being able to save people's lives when it comes to automobile accidents. Now that same traffic light is used to create a bunch of unnecessary gridlock, or how again, when King Simba came up with the term passport bros, how that got hijacked by one American expat, to kind of reinforce their movement. You know what I mean? Like it's literally just taking an idea that's really good in modesty and just taking it to an unhealthy extreme. And I think that's the trap that we fall into as well, is that we think we got to live everything to the extreme, but we have to take every ideal to the extreme in order for it to be manifested, instead of just realizing like, hey, everything's good in moderation. You know what I mean? So,
Well, hey, that's not the way capitalism and negative liberty is working contemporarily in our culture.
I'm saying like that's how it becomes an aberration. It's just
exactly.
taking an idea.
And that's the same.
Yeah, just taking an idea, just taking it to the extreme.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, like, look, negative liberty might be the pretext out of which other forms of freedom can exist. But like to me, like just the ability to do whatever the fuck it is you want, I don't see how that's freedom at all. And I don't see how people have been confused into thinking that that's what freedom actually is. Like the freedom in and of itself is just being unobstructed to do whatever the fuck it is you want. Like, think about it. When I was, to give you an example. One Halloween, couldn't have been any more than 8 or 9 years old. I went out, man, and this is before all of the scares associated with like, poison and candy and shit like that. We used to go knocking it. In my neighborhood, we had fucking everybody giving out candy. So I come home, man, I got this humongous fucking grocery bag full of candy and shit. And I just ate it. I just ate until my heart's content. Candy and shit. As 8, 9 years old. And you know what the result of that was? I was sick.
No.
You understand? So the freedom to do whatever it is you want to do doesn't necessarily lead to positive outcomes. Now, one can argue that not being able to do anything you want, that's oppression. Or one could argue domination, put it that way. It's not necessarily oppression, but it's domination. And we don't think that domination is a good thing, okay? We want to be able to exhibit some agency through making decisions. But at the end of the day, all I'm saying is America, it ain't just America, it's the West in general since the Enlightenment. We've abandoned virtue ethics. It's gone. That shit is out of the window. Right now, you got a whole bunch of individuals deciding, predicated upon what they consider to be their truth, what my truth is, deciding what's good or bad. So what we have is a moral relativism, to be quite honest. Like moral subjectivism. This is the world we live in. A bunch of motherfuckers deciding this is best for me. This is my truth for me. So what do you do when you got a culture that's invested in that shit? What you're going to have to countenance and see is white people claiming to be black, men claiming to be women, people arguing that sex is based upon like pleasure as opposed to the functionality of reproduction. This is the shit you got to deal with. It's because it comes along with the territory. Now, I get that my viewpoint on the whole concept of rights is that it was a response to, unjust conditions that existed in medieval Europe or pre-Enlightenment Europe. That's my perception of it, okay? Now, people got along, like for fucking decades and millennia without the whole concept of rights.
Correct.
I mean, just how the fuck it is, okay? I mean, not to say that there weren't any concept of rights at all at any time, but I mean, like the way that they're structured contemporarily, no. So you're going to see, like, I assume that you're going to even see more weird shit to come. Trust me. Now, what's going to be the outcome? Look, I can't predict the future, but I know we're heading to a fucking hell in a handbasket. I can tell you that. Like, I mean, if there's no telos, if there's nothing objective out there that basically reins in your concept of what's good or bad, what's right or wrong, what's just or unjust, and it's all just a function of your subjectivity, then I don't know how the fuck, like, so it's gotten to the point where sex is no longer about reproduction anymore. It's just about pleasure and shit. And not to say that it shouldn't be connected to pleasure, but like, is that all it is? Like, there's no end to human behavior? There's no standards of excellence and shit like that at all? It's just, it's confusing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, and there are philosophers who are like, okay, well, like, we took a wrong turn. How do we get the ship, like, how do we turn the Titanic back around so we miss the iceberg? I don't know. Like, I personally, I don't know. I don't have the answers, like the absolute answers to all of this shit. But like the idea that anything goes, and now I'm about to start singing AMG and shit. Anything goes when it comes down. Pimpin' ain't easy. Yeah. But yeah, that's, hold on. So shout out to Mar Soul. He says, thanks for the information. Look, man, I don't want to like saddle y'all, man. I'm at the point right now where I'm hungry. I gotta cook eggs and shit. Slice and dice them, and I bought 4 cans of albacore tuna. I'm about to make that. Feel me? About to make that. But I'm supposed to be interviewing this brother tomorrow, man. Complex Designs. I ain't heard from him, so hopefully he'll give me a shout out, man, and we'll get this show going. I'm supposed to interview him about his micro mobility company, so I'm hoping that he'll be present tomorrow. We're supposed to hook up around about 6 o'clock. Chaos, man, you good, bro?
I'm good. Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead, man, and then we're gonna close this out and let everybody speak their piece, and then we're going around the horn. Go ahead.
The thing about backdoor, wasn't that a section or a paragraph from the Miseducation of Negro by Courage Woodson?
Yeah, man.
So it's like more of a deeper breakdown. Well, the thing that I got out of that, I read the book years ago. I think it's been almost a decade now. I think maybe almost a decade. So the book now is supposed to be 90 years old now, this year. The thing with the backdoor, I say analysis, that he said it best from one gay that we are able to create the realities that we see, but there's someone already imprint on us. So if we don't see it, it's like we're going to create it from that analogy. So if the mind, like he says, is going and the body follows, and it goes far, you create it. So it tells you it's somebody, the psyche, the thing that we're inputting is always a constant battle to really reorganize, re-engineer to get back to some way of some control. Because not our thinking why we move the way we do overall. We think it's our thoughts, but we're in a system that constantly is restructuring how we're supposed to think to serve them, and very few black to get out of it. Go ahead.
What Carter G. Woodson was about, man, was making sure that black people understood their own history instead of just researching and studying white people. Like, what the fuck? He's like, fuck, stop studying white people, man, and start studying yourself. Start studying your history and stop studying white folks. Learn how to be proud of you and your people's history and what they've achieved and accomplished in the real world, as opposed to what white people have done and achieved and accomplished in the world. That's the point of it. Okay, so that's why he came up with Negro History Week, because he's like, damn. But I mean, this was at a time though when schools were still segregated.
Yeah, I know. But for the last 20 years. Yeah.
So but he understood the need for black people to move outside of the box, because I mean we're reared in a Western culture. And everywhere there's contemptible and demeaning caricaturizations of black people and their potentiality. And so therefore he's like, look, let's write our own history, let's study our own selves and develop our own concepts about who we are, as opposed to having external forces determine who it is that we are, determining who it is that we are and developing, concepts about our value and our worth as we, matriculate through this life. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that was his position. Okay. Now, I don't know if we're doing a good job at the current moment. I mean, you got to think about who's educating our children today. I would assume that the kids, and even though they were subjected to contemptible and demeaning images of themselves, I'm pretty sure they had or harbored some negative sentiments about one another. I'm sure they did, and said, some pretty deprecating things about each other. But I mean, fuck, they weren't really actually the kids. I mean, especially like people like MLK and Bayard Rustin and Ralph Abernathy. They were educated in fucking schools that were all black, with teachers that were all black.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty sure, they didn't have white women educating them and shit.
Not until what, the 60s? Or
now we got white people educating our kids, man, giving them Adderall and shit, telling them they need to be in special education, and sending them, suspending them, and basically putting negative shit on their record and calling a juvenile, calling the police on them. So this
God bless Miss Ann.
That's the world. That's the world we live in now. So then you wonder, the miseducation of the Negro is happening everywhere. So anyway, man, shout out to T. Crawford, man. I'm gonna give it up to Big Kev. I'm gonna take you down, man. Big Kev, talk to us and send us home, man. And then I'm gonna get Admiral after that.
Well, listen, man. I would just say, man, I think it would do a lot of so-called black folks in America a lot of good to actually do some genealogical research. I know I gotta brush up on mine for yourself. Study your genealogy, and also too, it's just go, if you ever get a chance to go look up some of the inventors. Okay, go look up some of the inventors, the various quote unquote black inventors. Okay, just to get an idea. You'll be surprised how much you've actively contributed to the good that exists in this world, especially brothers, if you actually go and look the information up for yourself instead of just hoping that somebody else will tell you. And then in regards to the culture thing, again, it's it's not a matter of, how can I put it this? Again, going back to what the late Patrice O'Neill said about behaving righteously, I think the emphasis, again, it shouldn't be about trying to quote unquote reclaim or try to idealize dysfunction. It's more so about us letting go of the parts of our quote unquote culture that clearly doesn't serve us, and hyper emphasizing the stuff that does serve us and that does work for us. The things that are beneficial to us. I think that should be the emphasis. I think what a lot of us folks is that because of the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow and reclassification, a lot of us desperately cling to these dysfunctional norms because we feel like that's all that we know. In reality, it's it was a phase. And what you have to realize is that, again, it's you don't need white people to tell you how to be a good person or to tell you how to be a functional member of society. You have that stuff within you. So I think it's just a matter of just basically just reverting back to the stuff within our culture that actually works and letting go of the stuff that doesn't. Like what you said before, Green Gorilla, chew the meat, spit out the bones. So
thank you, brother, for the contribution, man. I'm gonna go ahead and get Sand Dog, man. Take us home, bro.
Look, what I want to tell you guys, man, about the back door is you are not as messed up as you think you are. All cultures and groups of people have dysfunctions, right? Sad and most unfortunately, many of us have not been to the lands or the places in which these people come from, nor are they examined within American society. So you have to remember that you are the permanent underclass, and there are institutions from media to academia that's all designed on reinforcing that idea, right? Your culture is not a childish culture that you grow out of, right? So again, just the other day, right, you got people hanging out with the owner of Alibaba at the Dubai Chamber of Commerce. And who invented the Chamber of Commerce? Right? Again, Booker T. Washington. So you don't live or have a culture that is childish that you grow out of. All cultures have their positives and they have their goods. And magically, because it's you, it's not this thing that drags, yourself and all of humanity down. So, like I said, so again, we are a great people, what I'm saying, with the great destiny. And remember, we've accomplished a lot, man. You're only 100 and you're not even 200 years out of slavery, and you're like 50 years or so out of Jim Crow, right? So give yourself a chance. It takes time, and that's all I got.
Hey, man, thank you. Appreciate your your contribution, my brother. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So having said all that, man, look, I'm about to go ahead and zone out and get to this food, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's well timed. It's a feeding time. You know what I mean? Then I'm probably about to hopefully I don't know if I'm a sci-fi head, man. I think I've been watching this shit called Picard. I wonder if
oh man, John Lucas, my dude, man.
Watching Picard, man, and actually, The Mandalorian, the last episode was somewhat decent, you know what I'm saying? But like that shit that came last week, oh my God, that was an utter tragedy. But I'm watching episode 9 of Picard, man, and eat this tuna fish and chill on out. You know what I'm saying? Try to lose this gut.
You got my support.
Man, you know what I'm saying? I've been doing that 5-minute ab shit every day. Get down, put my abs under stress for 5 minutes. Exercise, man. Do some cardio for about 40 minutes to an hour, and then do some strength training, man. Later on, man. I know I'm older, but you know what I'm saying. Like I'm trying to, do them 20 pull-ups and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do about 13, to 12 to 15 now. I'm trying to get to 20, you know what I'm saying, by June, if I can. So hopefully, I'll be able to see my abs by then.
God willing.
God willing, bro. So peace out, my brother, man. Glad to have you, man. And anytime you're ready to get down again, man, I'm here for it.
Hey, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So, good luck with your fasting and all that, man. Yeah. So, but before we leave, man, that chicken you was eating, is it fried or is it a rotisserie?
Fried, fam. It's fried chicken.
Oh, okay. Yeah, man. I ate fried chicken today. I shouldn't have ate it, but I did. I've been baking my chicken, you know what I'm saying, or eating like rotisserie, which is a little bit healthier than fried shit, but yeah. You know how it go, bro. But anyway, man, I'll holler at you on the next one, dog.
All right, fam.
Peace out, dog.